It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a wacky Wednesday here on ZiFM Sport. The team is here. Mike, Chris, Sean, our producer, and my name is Barry. On the home front, according to reports, FC Platinum are sniffing around Bulawayo Giants Highlanders for the signature of midfielder Nqobizitha Masuku. In international sports news, we check in on the NBA Championship Series, where LeBron James overcame a slow start to finish with game highs of 28 points and 12 rebounds as the LA Lakers moved within one win of their 17th championship with a 102-96 victory over the Miami Heat in Game 4.
We'll take you around the world in 60, starting off in France, where Rafael Nadal was given his first real test of this year's French Open, but the defending champion successfully stayed on track for a record-equaling 20th Grand Slam title with a straight-set victory over teenage sensation Yannick Sinner. In the United Arab Emirates, Jos Buttler's blistering 70 from 44 balls came in a losing course for Rajasthan Royals as Mumbai Indians moved back top of the IPL table with a 57-run win in Abu Dhabi. And in the United States, Tony Finau has withdrawn from this week's Shriners Hospitals for Children Open after testing positive for COVID-19.
We'll then have our play of the day, Wacky Wednesday, and then the beautiful game will kick off in England, where the man nicknamed El Matador, Edinson Cavani, says he's ready for the responsibility of wearing Manchester United's iconic number 7 shirt, the same shirt worn by David Beckham and the legendary Eric Cantona. In Spain, Real Madrid midfielder Luka Modric has confirmed his intention to sign a new contract at the Santiago Bernabeu and end his career with Los Blancos. News out of Italy. Chris Smalling has made a touching farewell to Manchester United and the club's many fans after completing a move to AS Roma. But according to former England international Paul Robinson, United and their chief executive Ed Woodward were wrong to sell Chris Smalling to the Italian side. And then we'll also have a look at German football, where many pundits are saying that Michael Zorc once again showed off why he is the best in the world at what he does by leading Borussia Dortmund to another excellent transfer window.
But first up, always, it's our power play. And today, yes, it's not quite Christmas yet, but can you believe we're already into the last quarter of the year, and Dolly Parton has just released a new album for Christmas. This is
Did you say Dolly Parton?
Dolly Parton, bruh. She lives and breathes.
Dolly Parton?
She's still making music. Shucks.
She's still making music. She's joined here by comedian Jimmy Fallon and one of my favorite late night hosts. This is All I Want for Christmas.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Social media can be your friend because when you want to ask a question that is somewhat uncomfortable or you just want answers to, you can jump on there and probably get it. And you'll get it off our handles, which is ZiFM Sport, and our individual capacities. We're on there as well, at Mike Madoda, at Chris Midzi, at Gazaman14, that's Alois Bunjira, at Sean Tafire, and I'm on at Barry Manandi. Right, let's get into it. The home front is always first. Now, according to reports, FC Platinum are sniffing around Bulawayo Giants Highlanders for the signature of midfielder Nqobizitha Masuku. Masuku, whose contract with Bosa expires in December, is rumored to be close to signing a pre-contract with the league champions. Now, a move to Zhane will see the midfielder reuniting with his former coach at Highlanders, Dutchman Hendrik Pieter de Jong, and he's a huge admirer of the player and has made it very public that he is as such. It's a bit of a baffling move, Mike, because in truth, this is a player who used to play for FC Platinum, let him go, he went to Highlanders, now they want him back.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised with Nqobizitha Masuku. He did turn out for the Shavane Bay side before, of course, he went over to Zambia in 2015 to play for Buildcon. If you remember, Buildcon then attracted the likes of Devon Shafa, the likes of Patson Jaure, quite a number of Zimbabwe's top performers in the Councilanga Premier Soccer League back then. He's no longer that player that we saw, the player that captained the under-23 side, the player that seems to have a big future in front of him, did Nqobizitha Masuku, because he never quite found his niche. What is he? Holding midfielder? Is he a creative midfielder? Is he box-to-box? When you take a look at his creative output, not enough for you to be, throwing a lot of money at him and saying, hey, we need you in our team to create opportunities, to create chances. Is he a holding midfielder? He certainly is not, because at times Highlanders was forced to even play Peter Mudua in that role, because that has been always the weakest link at Highlanders over the last few years or so, since Mutulisi Maposa left the side. So I'm surprised by this move. I think this may just be a question of Peter de Jong, who was his former coach at Highlanders, just wanting to work with players that he's used to, players that understand him. Perhaps he loved the boys' attitude, he loved the boys' approach when he was coaching Highlanders, and that's the reason why he would be willing to sign in for FC Platinum. I don't see him as being an upgrade to anything that's there, to be honest, if I have to take a look at things from just a technical perspective, because the likes of Kelvin Madzongo, I think, are better players.
Yeah, Mike makes a very fine point in the sense that it's got to be an upgrade, doesn't it, Chris? Because you look at them losing last Jesse to Al Hilal out in Sudan, and you think to yourself, yes, that's a subtraction for their midfield department. Is Nqobizitha Masuku going to be a replacement for last Jesse? You think no. We've only got one body of evidence to consider, and that is the Castle Challenge Cup that was played earlier in the year. And in truth, FC Platinum played around him.
Look, he's a decent player, but I think one of the things that we need to consider is that FC Platinum is going into the CAF Champions League with limited preparations. Is this the kind of player that you want to go with into the tournament with limited preparations? Is this the guy who's supposed to, hold down in terms of the midfield? I don't think so. But I think what Peter de Jong is looking at is the fact that they're going into it with limited preparations. How can he plug this hole? He's going to plug it with a player that he's worked with before at Highlanders, a player that probably he feels is better suited, a player who's played at FC Platinum before. So I think it's putting a paper over a hole. I don't think this is necessarily the player that's going to do the business for them, especially in the CAF Champions League, seeing as we probably won't have a PSL this year.
Papering over the cracks is the assertion by Chris Alois, and in truth, it seems like that. Obviously, we've heard news filtering through that FC Platinum is going to be allowed to do group training now in the next couple of days, if that hasn't come through already. But they're going into the CAF Champions League sorely undercooked. Perhaps this is just trying to boost the squad depth, but even then, it's still a bit of a baffling move.
Yeah, it's quite baffling though that they are going for him. Like Mike said, I don't really think that he is the kind of player that they need. That's actually one of the problems that we have in our professional setup in Zimbabwe. We don't have a scouting team at any club, because there should be like a director of football who should be directing. Look, de Jong is just new here, and all he knows is the players that he has worked with. So most probably he knows the players at Highlanders. He doesn't really know the other players in other teams. So he needed somebody who can actually scout for him, tell him what is needed, where they can get the player. They are much better holding midfielders in Zimbabwe than Nqobizitha, let's be honest. And they didn't do their homework very well. But it's just like, okay, squad depth, I'm okay with it. But to enhance the squad for the CAF Champions League, I don't see that as the move that is going to do that for them. So yeah, let's just hope that they are just doing it to plug the hole so that they can have a squad of 25 that they need, but not to enhance their squad.
Mike, I want to pursue what Alois has just brought up, and that is the structure of FC Platinum, the director of football position. Clearly, and you pointed out when you were talking about this player, Masuku, in the sense that he worked with Peter de Jong, so Peter de Jong obviously likes the boy, likes his work ethic, and wants him at FC Platinum. But is there a conversation happening between the head coach and somebody within the footballing structure at FC Platinum asking some hard questions about why do we actually need this boy?
Who's that person? Is there that position? As far as I know, I think in terms of from the technical structure at FC Platinum, Peter de Jong is the top man. He's the one who sits at the very top of the hierarchy when it comes to footballing matters, on-field matters. So it may well be just a case, like I said.
Doesn't this cry out for that position, Mike? Doesn't it cry out for that position?
That position, Barry, is something that, to be honest, is still even in terms of the professional and the bigger European leagues, it's a position that's still its effect, its impact, and its suitability is still up in the air. There are certain clubs that have worked well with that club, but we've also seen it backfire even in more professional settings than Zimbabwe. I don't see this working in Zimbabwe. I don't know of a coach who would accept reporting to another man about footballing issues. And that's where the problem is. Not that it doesn't work, but I just see it as a cultural thing in Zimbabwe football where the coach says, I am the coach. I decide on football issues.
Yeah, and Peter de Jong is the man at the very helm. He's a man who's unhappy at the moment, Chris, because he hasn't had a chance to get group training done, even though they are preparing for a very important assignment on the African continent. What can we expect from FC Platinum in real terms?
I don't think we can expect a lot. I think realistically the time has passed where if they were going to have adequate preparations, they should have started by now. There were hints on Monday. The government hinted that football could be back in action this year. But I think in terms of the logistics and sorting it out, I think there's still quite a bit to be done there. FC Platinum, I think, should have received the go-ahead to start training, group training, that is. They should have been given that go-ahead because, first of all, FC Platinum is, I think, one of the only teams in the country that would be able to train in a sort of bubble concept, in a bubble that's set up out in Zishavane. They're training there on their own. If they do need a couple of practice matches, I'm sure the government could have authorized that as well. I just think that between ZIFA and the SRC, the government, we just need someone to get football back on track in some way or manner. Right now, anything that's happening on the continent, whether it's FC Platinum or whether it's the national team itself, there are no adequate preparations that can be done anymore because time is simply up.
I think 2020 is all but a write-off in terms of Zimbabwe football, but nonetheless, FC Platinum needing to make signings, and they are signing the man from Highlanders, Nqobizitha Masuku. Well, it sounds, at least the rumor mill is saying that they want to sign him and want to raid Highlanders again. Remember, they already secured the services of Denzel Khumalo from Highlanders and want to raid the Bulawayo Giants once again. We'll keep a keen eye on that one, as well as the fortunes of SC Platinum as they go on to a continental sojourn.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Let's get you updated with what's happening locally. Let's starting with rugby news, where Abigail Kawonza has been named Zimbabwe's Rugby Unstoppables Continental #TryAndStopUs campaign ambassador. Kawonza is a Zimbabwe Rugby Union board member, coach of match officials, and a referee. She's part of a group of women nominated to fast-track the development of women's rugby in Africa. The social media campaign features 12 inspirational women and girls with unstoppable qualities. It will run over a period of 3 months, showcasing the diversity of the continent. In athletics news, Zimbabwe's track and field coaches have been given an opportunity to hone their coaching skills. They've been invited to take part in a 2-day speed and power virtual conference, which will be hosted by England Athletics next month. Former Zimbabwe track and field coach Stanley Fresh Madiri, who is one of the organizers, said the seminar is set for the 14th and 15th of November. Let's wrap it up with volleyball and handball news. The Volleyball and Handball Associations are seeking selective exemption from the government ground so they can resume some of their activities. The Zimbabwe Volleyball Association, the ZVA, want beach volleyball, which requires few athletes, to be given the green light to be played, while Zimbabwe Handball Federation have sought for permission to have the game return so they could host the IHF Trophy Zone 6 games in December. The Zone 6 games were scheduled for April, but were postponed due to the COVID-19 induced lockdown.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. Whether it's the NBA or NFL, the best of America on ZiFM Sport.
And keep your messages coming in on Twitter at ZFM Sport, at Christine Midzi, at Sean Tafininika, at Barry Menandi, at Gazaman14, at Mike Madoda, or even at Pause, the big man, still very much an integral part of the show. This time, we're going stateside with our international sports news to the NBA playoffs, where the man dubbed the King, LeBron James, overcame a slow start to finish with game highs of 28 points and 12 rebounds as the Lakers moved within one win of their 17th championship with a 102-96 victory over the Miami Heat in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. James scored 20 of his points in the second half and added 8 assists on the night as the Lakers seized a 3-1 lead in the best of 7 series. Let's hear from the King, LeBron James.
You never stop striving to be perfect or be great. And you know that a perfect game is not going to happen, but that don't mean you still don't strive to be as great as you can be every night. Now, you know, every game has its own, adjustments and things of that nature. And, tonight was one of those games where we had to win on the defensive end and make some timely shots. But I think when you start thinking like, okay, well, I can't be great tonight, or we can't be great tonight, okay, we just have to figure it out, then you sell yourself short. And me personally, I would never do that as long as I lace them up and put on a uniform. But I love what we did tonight.
Z.
Barry, the Lakers are 3-1 up. Miami Heat just a couple of days ago avoiding the sweep. They registered one win on the board. But at 3-1, surely all the money is on LA. Surely all the sensible betting is on LeBron James to lead the Lakers to a 17th championship. He promised he would deliver on that note. He's on the cusp.
He's on the cusp, and fair dues to him. It's only what he deserves because of the performances that he's put in the postseason. And in truth, it hasn't been any different in these finals. And I think the biggest element of these finals is that it was always going to be like a battle between two men, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler. But it's a supporting cast that I think then takes you over the top for the Lakers, because when you look at the contributions of Anthony Davis and all the other Lakers supporting cast, as it were, and you compare it to the support that Jimmy Butler's been getting, the Lakers have certainly been streets ahead. And as a result, the 3-1 lead is what follows. So for me, I think it's going to end 4-1. I don't see the Miami Heat coming back into this because there's a bit too much weight on Jimmy Buckets.
Chris, sport really is driven by media narratives. I mean, the media creates the stories that they want to tell, and more often than not, people will lap them up because usually people are not following what's actually happening on the ground. Now, the media narrative around LA, should they win their 17th championship, will be all about LeBron. But Barry has talked about the supporting cast, and there is no bigger performer than Anthony Davis, who in this match scored 22 points and has been a consistent factor from day one in the bubble. Went missing, obviously, because of foul trouble in the last game, but he has been as big a contributor as LeBron, if not bigger.
And it's unfortunate that the media will pick one particular player and make them the superstar. In this case, obviously, it's LeBron James. But Anthony Davis has come through game after game, and I think LeBron James in his post game yesterday actually mentioned Anthony Davis to say he needed him and that he came through, especially in Game 4, early hours of this morning. I was going to say last night. So I think it's. Having a player, at least he's acknowledging the fact that he needs Anthony Davis, but it's also just alerting the media to this guy who is not getting as many mentions. He's not getting as much media recognition as LeBron James, because like you said, we all like the story. The story is what sells the viewership. So Anthony Davis, brilliant player, especially in the bubble, has come through big time for the Lakers.
And the reason I talk about Anthony Davis, Barry, is you go to the dying stages of that game. In the fourth quarter, the Heat remained in the contest. Butler ties the game at 83 all. But then Davis comes up with the big play. Clutch, three-pointer with just 39.5 seconds left on the clock. And then he follows that up with the block on Jimmy Butler as he was going for an easy layup. So he's the man that ensured the victory.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at it, even when you listen to the pundits, when you listen to the story around these finals, one of the elements that has consistently been talked about is that the Lakers always had the edge because they were the bigger team. In other words, they size-wise, they were the bigger team. And in truth, when we're talking about size, Anthony Davis is certainly one of the biggest players on the floor. And that's why defensively and offensively, he's been contributing. Now, if you can get a player who can contribute on both sides of the bucket, both sides of the floor, that's what you're looking for. You want him to be your defensive leader. You want him to be one of the offensive and contributing and chipping in offensively as well. That's why it's a team sport. And so for me, tragically, King James is always going to get the plaudits. But in truth, the unsung hero, and unfortunately is absolutely unsung, is Anthony Davis.
All right, all that's left to see is whether the LA Lakers will be able to wrap it up in 5 games or whether Miami will be able to make a fight for it and make things really interesting in the NBA playoffs. They do have some really good players. Jimmy Butler, as he proved in Game 3, can he do it in Game 5? Bam Adebayo is back now from injury. Can he rise to the occasion and support Butler in making sure that they keep this series going? All those questions will be answered in the early hours of Saturday morning, Game 5 in the NBA playoffs.
Hi, my name is Luka, Los Angeles Clippers small forward, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Only DSTV brings you the very best football action. Catch all the action from the most popular league in the world, the English Premier League, with some of the world's biggest stars in Sadio Mane, Harry Kane, Sergio Aguero, and Virgil van Dijk.
Oh, they done it! I cannot believe it!
Catch all the action on the brand new SuperSport Premier League channel on channel 223.
Oh, wow!
We have the world's best football, only on DSTV.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We start off in France, where Rafael Nadal was given his first real test of this year's French Open, but the defending champion successfully stayed on track for a record-equaling 20th Grand Slam title with straight sets victory over teenage sensation Yannick Sinner. That was 7-6. 6-4, 6-1. World number 3 Dominic Thiem, though, is out of the French Open after losing an epic 5-set battle of attrition against Diego Schwartzman in the quarterfinals. 7-6, 5-7, 6-7, 7-6, 6-2. On the ladies' side, Nadia Podoroska became the first qualifier to reach the French Open women's singles semifinals with victory against third seed Elina Svitolina 6-2, 6-4. We head over to the United Arab Emirates, where Jos Buttler's blistering 70 from 44 balls came in a losing cause for the Rajasthan Royals as Mumbai Indians moved back top of the IPL table with a 57-run win in Abu Dhabi. Buttler's 10th IPL 50, which featured 5 sixes and 4 fours, had given the Rajasthan Royals faint hope of chasing down Mumbai's 193 for 4. But when the England man was out to a fine catch from Kieran Pollard at long on in the 14th 14th over. The Royals were all but done at 98 for 5, having initially slipped to 12 for 3 inside 3 overs. And in the United States, Tony Finau has been withdrawn from this week's Shriners Hospitals for Children Open after testing positive for COVID-19. Finau was tested on his arrival at TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas, and the positive result now requires him to self-isolate for the next 2 weeks. The world number 16, who was due to make his first start since the US Open, will now be unable to compete in either the CJ Cup at Shadow Creek or the Zozo Championship at Sherwood.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Plenty of football in the beautiful game today, and obviously we're starting in England, where Edinson Cavani, El Matador, says he's ready for the responsibility of wearing Manchester United's iconic number 7 shirt. It's the same shirt worn by Cantona, the same shirt worn by David Beckham, the same shirt worn by Cristiano Ronaldo, and the striker who signed a 2-year contract at Old Trafford will follow in the footsteps of those iconic players, and he is determined to live up to the expectation that comes with it. Alois Munjira, Edinson Cavani, 33 years old. Those players that we've mentioned wore the shirt when they were a lot younger. Does Cavani have it in him to become a cult hero at Old Trafford?
I don't know, Mike. I don't really know. You know, when you come into a team that is struggling defensively and you are the striker and you are going to be forced to defend a lot more than you are going to be going forward to attack and score goals. You know, that's why I'm afraid for him that, you know what, he might fail not because he's not good enough, but he might fail because the team is not kicking on, the team is not clicking. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. As for the number 7, I'm not so sure. What was he doing? Where was the jersey before then? This season kicked off recently, so I don't know where the jersey was in the first place. So I don't know about it. It's iconic, yes, but I would have loved it to be worn by someone younger who is actually going to be like a club legend for many years.
I think that the jersey has been reserved for, you know, the special signings that United makes, but in recent seasons, Barry, the transfer business at Old Trafford hasn't been great. So they have signed big name players that have come with big expectations, and they've all flopped. Let's run through that list. Angel Di Maria, Memphis Depay, Alexis Sanchez, they all wore the number 7 shirt with very poor results.
Yeah, I was actually going to juxtapose the 3 names you just mentioned with the 3 names that you mentioned earlier on as to having worn the number 7 shirt before. So I think it's a case of the team and where the team is versus where the players are arriving, because we saw when Angel Di Maria left United and went across to Paris Saint-Germain, he actually put in a few performances. Memphis Depay, we know that his journey has picked up in a major way. Interest from Barcelona, the deal didn't go through, and him leaving Olympique Lyon in this transfer window. So their careers have picked up since Manchester United. So the players aren't the problem, the club is the problem. So I agree with Alois. It's a case of where is the club in its journey, and right now Edinson Cavani may not be the right man for where the journey is. Right now it's about battening down the hatches and making sure that we can stop teams first and then see what we can do going forward. At this stage, Manchester United can't stop teams, not with that defense.
Okay, so it looks like the system may be broken in Manchester United and it will need fixing if Cavani is to live up to the performances of players who have worn that jersey number 7. Let's move on to London, where Chelsea goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga says he believes he can turn the situation round at the club after being dropped by Frank Lampard following a poor start to the season. Kepa, of course, joined Chelsea for £71 million, a world record for a goalkeeper, Chris. This was back in 2018, came in with big expectations. People talked him up. Liverpool had just done the business for Alisson, broken the record just a couple of weeks before that, £68 million. Chelsea decided that, no, we're not going to let you hold that record. We'll take it for ourselves. Signed Kepa. But if you compare the performances of Kepa and Alisson, they've been vastly different. I'm going to get your thoughts on the performances of Kepa. But before that, let's hear from the goalkeeper himself.
No, es una pregunta más para él que para mí, ¿no? Al final son sus palabras.
That's a question for Frank Lampard and not me. They're his words about my performances at Chelsea. Every manager has their own way of communicating or acting in a press conference. I can't give my opinion on what anyone thinks or says. I do feel confidence from the club, and I do feel confidence from the national team. As I've said before, I'm in 2 world-class teams with great managers. I'm just focused on the next game for each team and trying to help from my position, whatever that is. I feel good. I feel strong and confident. It's true, I'm not in a dream situation or one that I expected, but sometimes you go through these times in your career. I'm working and I'm calm. I'm confident I can turn the situation around, work hard, and when I have the chance to play, try to do my best.
Chris, he believes he can turn it around, Kepa.
If you take a look at his performances up until this point, up until Lampard actually was dropping him. If you take a look at those performances, they're not convincing. There's opportunities where you can clearly say he could have made a save. He doesn't manage to do it. I think once the coach doesn't have belief in you anymore, I think once that happens, which I think has happened between him and Frank Lampard, I don't think he's going to be able to salvage the situation because, first of all, Chelsea is in a bit of a tight spot. Frank Lampard cannot afford to let through any goals and possibly lose any games because of the amount of money that he's already spent. His own £71 million movement alone is a really big deal and he should be living up to it. You compared him to Alisson, and if you take a look at their performances, vastly different. Can Liverpool rely on Alisson? 100%. Can Chelsea 100% rely on Kepa? I don't think so.
Well, you know what? I ran across some very fascinating stats, Barry, and I think they're going to shock the team in studio. The list that has goalkeepers making the most mistakes leading to goals in the last 2 seasons, of which Kepa has been at Chelsea, does not have Kepa anywhere near the top of that list. That list is headed by Pickford at Everton.
Jordan Pickford, yeah.
He's the one who's 2 ahead of everyone else. I think the goalkeeper, Newcastle's goalkeeper, is on that list. David De Gea is on that list. In fact, Kepa has only made 2 mistakes that can be classified as 2 mistakes that have led to goals as a Chelsea goalkeeper. Is he the victim of a media witch hunt? We talked about narratives when we were discussing basketball. Has he been one of those, Kepa, where, there's been a certain narrative around him and his position and his performances such that even sometimes when he's not responsible for the goals that Chelsea concede, he's still the man that people talk about?
Yeah, it's a media onslaught, but I believe that it's been fanned, or even the genesis of it has come from the coach. The coach hasn't supported the boy. He hasn't publicly shown confidence in Kepa Arrizabalaga. And in truth, I'm surprised that the stats department hasn't actually looked at that juxtaposed with other keepers in the league. Look at the case of, and the one I definitely was sure of is that Jordan Pickford would be near the top. Jordan Pickford has retained his position. Jordan Pickford has even been picked as England #1 in the immediate last international window. So how come Jordan Pickford gets such a rite of passage and his backside without the media jumping around and saying that he's a poor goalkeeper? So you can see there's a disconnect and there's a pressing down of the weight of the scale there, and Kepa is a real victim of that. Frank Lampard could have done more to support his goalkeeper.
Alois, the Chelsea has brought in a new goalkeeper, and of course it's Edouard Mendy from Rennes, a Senegalese goalkeeper. He's made a couple of starts for Chelsea in the cup competition and in the league. This past match, clean sheet for him. What have you made from Chelsea's new goalkeeper?
Yeah, he's decent, Mike. To be honest, he's decent. I was actually trying to look at the situation with Kepa, and I actually agree with everybody else that says, what, Kepa is actually a victim, and I still believe that Kepa is a much better goalkeeper than the new goalkeeper at Chelsea. It's like the coach has not given him the protection that he needs. Sometimes there are situations whereby once the coach speaks, remember when we talked about Borussia Dortmund, when somebody in the senior department of a team speaks out, it filters through to the rest of the world that, we can't touch this guy. So once the criticism is starting from within, then it escalates. That's what exactly has happened with Kepa. And the enemies of Chelsea take it upon themselves to blow it out of proportion. So he is a victim of all that. Chelsea should have protected him. Once a player gets protection and feels that I'm loved by my club, even the performances go up. He starts performing well. So he is now jittery because of what is happening within the club. So I still think that, yes, the new goalkeeper is a good goalkeeper, he's a decent goalkeeper, but I believe that Kepa is still the better goalkeeper and should be given protection and start for the team.
He's 26 years old, guys. He's 26 years old. And as Alois is pointing out, look, he's a young man, and goalkeepers really come into their prime round about 28, 29, thereabouts. And in truth, if he starts out great, yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, he's gonna give you 10, 13 years of brilliant performances. But I think Kepa hasn't done as much as to say that he can't be a first choice keeper for a top team. So in truth, I think Chelsea's made a horrible error here, and I feel that this might come back to bite them, just like the selling of Kevin De Bruyne came back to bite them in the rear end. The selling of Mohamed Salah came to bite them in the rear end. Kepa could be the next cautionary tale out of Chelsea Football Club.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wants it!
All right, let's dive into Spain now. Real Madrid midfielder Luka Modric has confirmed his intention to sign a new contract at Santiago Bernabeu and end his career with Los Blancos. Mikey, this is a Ballon d'Or winner, whether you agree with his award of the Ballon d'Or or not. Let's leave that to one side.
I agreed with it.
You agreed with it? I didn't agree with it. Yeah, you took Croatia to the World Cup final, but that's not up for discussion. What's up for discussion right now is the fact that he's re-signing to Real Madrid. I have certainly seen a drop in his contribution to Los Blancos. What do you make of this?
I think it's a function of his age. 35 years old now, Barry. He's in the twilight of his career. But he's still able to pick a pass now and again. And I think in that Real Madrid midfield, sometimes when they do get it right, the balance is absolutely key to his performances, because he's then got Casemiro and Toni Kroos who are able to allow him to bomb further forward and be in attacking positions where he's able to influence play from an offensive point of view. But I think this is just the club, perhaps, if they do offer him a new contract, just acknowledging his contribution Real Madrid has been dominant in the UEFA Champions League over the last 6 or so years. I think they've won it 4 times. There's a time where they made it a hat-trick of titles in Europe, and it's acknowledgement for that. He's a club legend, and so they'll shake on a decent contract and say, you know what, stay in and around the squad. He's got the winning mentality, and he'll be a great guy to have in the dressing room at the Santiago Bernabeu. But I'm sure going forward, Real Madrid is looking perhaps at bringing on someone else to play in that position.
They certainly might be, but in truth, Modric signing and contract extension at Real Madrid, you can understand why, Chris, because he's had a long and storied career, as Mike pointed out, with Real Madrid. And in truth, he's on the same level in this generation with the likes of Sergio Ramos.
Definitely. And if you also take a look, I think that contributed a little bit, the fact that Real Madrid has full on said that, in fact, they haven't made any signings, and this is the first time they've done that in 40 years. I think this is just part of retaining all of the players that they had as well.
Hold what we have.
Exactly. Hold on to everything you have, because obviously you're not getting any new players in. He's a reliable player for Real Madrid. Obviously, the law of diminishing returns. He's not getting in as many big performances as he used to. But I think he's still a player that they can rely on. And if they don't have new players, then, keep the players that you've got and make use of them.
Yeah, he's also a player who's going to scare others on any team sheet. Alois, in very small detail, your assessment of Luka Modric at Real Madrid.
No, I agree with you guys, because he actually has contributed a lot. He was on top of his game a few years ago, but unfortunately, after that Ballon d'Or, he just went downward. We never saw him after that Ballon d'Or. He must curse it. I think that was curse. But otherwise, overall, I think he has done well for Real Madrid, and they are very well within their rights to actually reward him with an extension and keep him as a club legend. But that Ballon d'Or,
Alois, that is perfect symmetry. We started with that Ballon d'Or, and we finished the story with that Ballon d'Or. Modric to sign an extension at Real Madrid.
The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Belotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of!
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Franck Ribéry seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful, the best of Italian football on Z.
Heading into Serie A now, Chris Smalling has bid a touching farewell to Manchester United and the club's many fans after competing a move to Roma. But according to former England international Paul Robinson, Manchester United and their chief executive Ed Woodward were wrong to sell Chris Smalling to Roma. Mike, do you agree with Paul Robinson that they were wrong to sell Chris Smalling?
Absolutely agree with them. This is a move that didn't make sense. We've all seen the scandalous performances of Harry Maguire, of Eric Bailly, of Lindelof at the heart of Manchester United's defense. And we all know the season that Chris Smalling had in Rome, playing for AS Roma. Italy classically is a place where they breed great defenders. And if you can hold your own in Serie A with so much scrutiny on the defensive side of play, that means you've come along as a player. Manchester United should have been salivating as they watched Chris Smalling last season and say, you know what,
Mike,
when he comes back, this is the guy we are sticking into the center of our defense. But what do they do? Probably no one is keeping tabs on him, and they've decided to let him go. I mean, it's just, I don't know what's happening at Old Trafford, but long may it continue as a Liverpool fan.
Totally crazy.
Alois, just bringing you in as a Manchester United fan. Chris Smalling, he's had some incredible performances for Manchester United. Obviously, we saw that hatchet defense. Last weekend, Eric Bailly, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof not performing as they should. But Chris Smalling himself wanting to leave Manchester United, obviously he's an underutilized player. Is it a good move for Chris Smalling himself to go to Roma, where he possibly could be putting up better performances and being given more chances?
Yeah, for himself, it's actually a good move. But for Manchester United, it's not a good move. Like Mike said, you know what? Manchester United actually needed Chris Smalling more than ever. You know, even before he left, you know, he was not getting game time, but he was one of the better players, to be honest. It was a surprise that he actually went on loan and then kept players that were not better than him. But now that he has shown that he can actually play, he displayed what he can do with Roma. Now Manchester United are supposed to say, thank you very much, we want our player back. He can now slot in and play. But what do? They ship him out. And they've got our captain Maguire, we've got Lindelof, we've got Bailly. All of them folded into one. They're not better than Chris Smalling at this moment in time.
Absolutely scathing there from Alois. We'll see what happens at Manchester United, but what we do know for sure, it's been a terrible, terrible transfer window.
Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
Right, just a couple of minutes left, but enough time for us to wrap up the show in Germany, where pundits are saying that Michael Zock, very good name that Michael, showed once again why he is the best in the world at what he does by leading Borussia Dortmund to another excellent transfer window. The window was dominated by rumors linking Jadon Sancho with the move to United, but they made sure that it didn't happen, Barry. And two things I think that we can say that came out of that protracted Jadon Sancho Man United potential move was that Borussia Dortmund are now at the level or at a stage where they can't be pushed around now.
Yep.
Number two, they're no longer desperate for cash.
No. And it's a dramatic turnaround and a great case study for anyone who loves to study the game. A team that not less than two decades ago was battling for its life, couldn't breathe. It was almost going into, it was insolvent, was about to go into liquidation. Now a club that's
Bayern Munich had to pay his wages, if you remember.
Exactly, and there's no greater ignominy than for Mababa next door because you don't have the funds, and that's literally the scenario and case that was happening at Borussia Dortmund. So to have turned around in this fashion is absolutely stunning, and the way that football should be run in truth. And remember, they brought in Jude Bellingham and stealing him under the nose of the likes of Manchester United from Birmingham City. So a very good transfer window for Borussia Dortmund. We have run out of time, would you believe? Time is always the enemy on the show because we have so much to discuss. But tomorrow we'll have our shortened show, so we pack it full of detail and try to get you the best interviews, the best chats out of the world of sports. So it's not one to miss on a Thursday evening starting at 5 after 6. So don't miss that one. But for now, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.